Hi everybody, and a very warm welcome back to the new Sandling Junction build. And there has been quite a bit going on with the layout and with the build itself. So let's roll the intro and I'll tell you what's been happening. Hi everybody, and a warm welcome back. And as I said just now, there has been quite a bit going on, not just with the layout, but also out there in the area where I do my modeling. But first things first, I wanted to talk about this area in front of me, the area of the harbour. Now, 2 videos ago, I asked for a little bit of help and advice from people, and I've got to say a big thank you to everybody who put in their thoughts and their comments, and there were some very good ideas, very good thoughts, and lots of things for me to think about and contemplate. And I've got to say again to James from Dongits, thank you so much for really making me remember why all the points and everything were in place, because I had forgotten, and there's been a lot been going on since Julian and I put all this together, and I've been laying the track, and I lost the sight a little bit of what was happening. So thank you for reminding me of that. And at the same time, I want to say a big thank you to Mr. Graham Wilson, who Graham, thank you very much for your ideas and your plans on any rail, and helping me out with how I may make this area a little better. Now, what Graham did is he designed a little bit of track for me that I could sort of work with in the area of the harbour and how it might work. And it was also pretty much the ideas of many of you that is to keep that run round, and to try, if I could, to keep 3 tracks going in and having a little shunter on site, on a spur, on a head shunt, or wherever you want to call it, so it could be called in to help with operations down in the harbour. So I've got it in my head, I've got it not laid out, that's my next part. But during the course of this video, I'm hoping that I can get all of this part of the track laid down. So I'm going to work on the cork, I'm going to work on cutting the design, then the cork, and then I'll lay the track and get it all working. And hopefully by the end of this video, I will have something that looks like most of you were trying to suggest it should look like. So hopefully we'll get there. Okay, so it's very hard to show you everything close up at this point, because I've got a very big arc of 180 degrees here, from this point here all the way around to what will become the end of the harbour over there. So what I'm trying to do is give you an idea with the track that I've sort of roughly bent into place, and we're gonna see if I can make this work by the end of this video. So the idea from many of you was to have a feed off of here as I had planned, but then I was just going to split it into 2 to come down here and have a little bit of an area off there, so the trains could sort of shunt round and run round and pick up their trains and go out. And I think that what the idea was from a lot of you was to have 3 lines coming in. Now we have this one here, we have this one here, which will join up there. It's not very well placed, but the idea being is we put a little I think I've got something here, it's not very good, but it's a little old resin one. The idea is to have a little engine shed here with something sitting here that can be pressed into action to assist trains arriving and unloading and taking their loads away. Now, one imagines that because we're at the harbour, that the boats will come and deliver the fish. So the trains should, in theory, arrive empty. And then they will load their fish on board the trucks and the wagons, or the covered wagons, and then they will depart away, heading for London and Billingsgate and other areas that would sell the fish on. All the way through, probably to about here somewhere, will all be under cobblestone. It will be sunk into the system. So I will cork, but I will double cork areas so I can run or paper or whatever it might be. And there's enough information out there online from other places that can allow me to understand how to set track in and suggest cobbles or suggest something else that will tell me or tell you that this is all submerged track. And indeed, as it is at Folkestone, it is all set under cobbles or in cobblestones or cobblestones, whichever. So that's the plan. All right, let's get on and let's see how it turns out. I may be doing the tunnel portals in the next video. Who knows? Okay, people, let's get this one underway. Now, first and foremost, I'm taking all the track that I've sort of put there in place ready for this. I'm marking it out carefully and just making a few finer adjustments as I go around cutting bits of track. Some of the track that I've used is the older track and some of it is brand spanking new track. And I've used the new track especially where these long lengths are, and one or two of the tighter curves where the ties on the brand new track have not had glue on them at any time, and so they move a little freer, and the curvature of the tightness of the track or the radius is a little easier to adjust. So I'm working on this three-way asymmetric, and oh, I hate them. But that, I mean, I've never had a problem with one, don't get me wrong. I mean, they're so complex to get set up and get three lots of track moving into them at the right position and the right cut. And you've only got to like hold one of these in the wrong way, cut it thinking you got it right and it's too short or whatever, and you've got to start again, and it's very easy to waste track this way. So I'm just taking my care, and the old adage of measure twice, cut once really comes into its own with this sort of operation. But slowly and surely I am pretty much getting there with what I've got to do. I'm using a few offcuts here just to do this final little bit of head shunt and making it go around far enough. Not too far around, it's just going to be too silly if I go too far. I want just enough for a small engine shed to sit there and for a little shunter to sit in readiness to operate everything else. Now I'm marking out the area of the harbour. I've given a harbour wall and I've given it a little bit of a design. It's not just one angle off of the table. It's going to have a little jaunt out, as you can see me drawing right now. But that pretty much is going to be the area that I've got to cut out at some point in the future. And I'm not quite sure how I'm going to really do that at the moment. I don't want too big a drop, but I think I'm going to have to make sure that the drop is sufficient to make it look right for a harbour. Now you can see I've got 3 08 shunters in place, and I've got an average of 3 to 5 small units on each of them. So I think I can fit in a very small train. Oh, and there's Lobo, of course. Had to get in on the act as always and upstage me, which is doing very, very well. Catch you all soon. Long way up to go yet, but I'm certainly pleased with the fact that it does seem to work. I think whether or not I can have any uncoupling of any sense, I'm not prototypical when it comes to understanding how these things run and stop and start and drop something and pick something up. So it might be that I run them in, and if I'm filming it, I stop the film, take them apart as I got to do them, and move forward. Not a big deal, but I know plenty out there that know how to put uncoupling devices in and things like that. I might try it, we'll see. But at the moment, I'm just happy to have something that I think is feasible, workable as a bit of a layout. My only concern, if I've got one, and that is that I have an awful lot of track for such a little layout. And I'm sure that it's not a big deal, because at the end of the day, it's rule one. It's my layout, I'll do whatever. But I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, there's track up round the back there, track here everywhere, and a station, and now we've got this harbour scene and track and everything else. Is there just too much for the layout overall? Well, I guess if you were being truthful, yes, there probably is too much track going on, and therefore very little room for infrastructure and other components. But I'm happy to live with that, I think. based on rule 1, and I will make as much scenery and as much of everything I possibly can in due course based on what I'm putting in now. And at the end of the day, of course, I mean, all I've got to do is rip some of this up, have one line in, one line out, as it were, and put more infrastructure in. So I don't think it's the end of the world, whatever, but I'm certainly going to run with it as it is. And again, thank you to everybody who had opinions, suggestions and thoughts about how this should be. Okay, so I'm really quite happy with the way everything has gone down, and it's all measured off nicely. It looks good, and I'm simply marking all the track where I want it to be. Now, admittedly, it's being marked here on the Harbour area, which is going to be covered up with cork in a minute, but if I change my mind or for whatever reason, while it was still set up, I felt I may as well just run the pen round and make doubly sure that it's as I want it. Kept as many sections together as I could and then got prepared with the cork. Now I started cutting this odd shape, and it really was an awkward shape to try and get large pieces of cork into. So it became a bit of a jigsaw, to be fair, just to make it look right and to get it finished off. But it's not all brand new cork. Some of these pieces I've saved back from offcuts, so it wasn't a sort of complete waste of good product. And yeah, and here comes the bit I'm going to be talking about a lot in a moment, and I'm probably going to give the game away. But I'm using some PVA glue. I thought it was good until I got it out of the tube and started using it, and my suspicions became more and more aroused by this. And well, I'll let you watch the video a little longer and you'll fully understand the problems that I had or are about to unveil themselves. Okay, so I've cut and spliced and played around and got this area covered down with cork, and I have one little worry. I think that this is quite old and it come out a little bit like cottage cheese, so I have no idea. Hopefully it's bonded. If it's not, I'm gonna have to rip it up and start again somehow, but hopefully it will hold everything down enough and I don't have to worry, he says. It seems that cork just seems to be soaking it all in, so I'm going to give that a bit more. Okay everybody, well, I've glued it all down, I've weighted it all down as best I can. I'm hoping that this glue is not so old that it hasn't done its job. I really do hope that it works, and the morning will tell, in the cool light of day we'll have a look at it, and if not, I'll have to deal with that, scrape it up and start again. But fingers crossed it'll be sorted in the morning and no problems. Catch you all soon. Okay guys, welcome back. Now, last time you saw all of this, there was cork laid here, but I did give you the caveat that I wasn't sure about the glue that I'd use. It came out a little bit like cottage cheese. I was a bit suspicious about it when I got up this morning. Hardly any of it had set, and what was there was just peeling off, and it was absolutely hopeless. So I decided to just cut my losses and take it all up, and just wiped off pretty much with a little bit of water and a sponge, took the glue away. A couple of rough spots here and there, but I was just going to sandpaper that down. I recut some new cork to lay in here. I actually designed the cut a little better this time. So what I'm going to do is go back to my own favorite, which is using Copydex on here, Copydex the back of that, and put it down. Now I'm not going to use Copydex in a way that it's a contact adhesive, because it does dry very, very well. Even if you just paint the surface here, put a bit on there, it will glue it down and it will be solid enough not to worry about it being contact. The thing about contacting Copydex is that if you don't quite get it in the right place, there's very little room for maneuver if you leave it to that last moment. And if you do start trying to reposition it, then you're going to pick it up and it's not going to have any effective glue hold at that point where you disturb it. So better off to give a good layer of Copydex on here and a little bit on the cork if you wish to as well, and then literally put it down and let it glue down, and that, leave it alone. Just be patient, let it go, and it will work for you without having to use that contact aspect of Copydex. All right. Well, if it's not one thing, it's another, and you do learn by your silly mistakes. And I should have realized quite early on and possibly just stopped and backtracked at that point. But I didn't, and I paid the penalty and I had to redo this area. But I'm using Copydex, and as I said earlier, I do not wait for it to become contact ready. I'd like to get it on there with a little bit of wiggle room before I get it set up. Now, by the time I've got all this coated with that tiny little brush on the end of that applicator, it's starting to go off a little bit anyway, but it still has enough in it to be able to move it around and play with it. Had I waited for that to go dark and start becoming contact, if it wasn't in the right place, I would do more damage trying to move it. The best to do it this way and get the weights on it and finish it off and just leave it to set up overnight. And that's exactly what I've done here. Get those weights out once more, weight it all down, and be patient overnight, and come back in the morning and have another go. Okay, so that's done for the second time, but it's done, and I think that that will be all I need to do. Once that's dried in the morning, I can then just take the weight off. This time I will not be peeling it back off the board. So what I'm going to do now is pick up all the debris and to start laying the cork from here around to this point here where it does meet the harbour area. Now what I do, there's a lot of cork offcuts that are created when you're, well, doing anything with cork really, but what I do is I keep them all. There's no point in getting rid of them and chucking them because they are very useful. And the reason I keep these is because I actually put these in a liquidizer or a coffee mill, and I just make fine particles from them, which make some great debris scatter and all sorts of things for scenics. Excellent, we're ready to crack on. Okay, so what I am going to do is get a couple of curved points out from the drawer. One there and one there. All I want this for is to literally trace out and to cut some templates so that I have them to go underneath the points when they go in place. I always try to cut to the outside of the line, just gives me a little shoulder. But I normally cut about on the line at the ends. Okay, so for the final part in this area, I'm just cutting those shapes that will be the cork bed under each of the curved points in this case, and also taking a few pieces of longer straight lengths and cutting them down the center so that together they will bend a little easier around the tighter curves that I've got. You will end up buckling it if you try to use one piece of cork to do this. Adding the Copydex down as I usually do now, and I will let this go off a little longer than I would do the larger area you just see me apply, because I can get this pretty much in the space that I want and get it down in the right way to begin with. But once again, I don't wait for it to get really dark and become contact ready. I still get on and still move it around a little bit of wiggle room, especially when you're going around these tight curves, because you know, you put a little bit on, you put the other bit on, and it may want to try and move out a little bit. But if you put it on at the right time, it will stick, it will stay there, and it shouldn't cause you any problem. At least that's the aim anyway. And I then went on to do a little bit more after this. Okay, so I've just cut up a meter of cork, 12 inches by 1 meter, and I use a very simple idea of one of these cheap Helix safety rulers. Now the thing is, keep your finger behind here so you don't slice them, but it's almost, I think it's about 30 mil, something like that, but it's just a nice width for track bed, for 00 anyway, certainly. And you get about, well, if you cut it carefully, you get 25 pieces out of a length of 1 meter by 12. Just keep going along and cutting away, and you get a little bit of excess at the end for whatever. So they're all ready to use. I just want to trim some down to go around these curves. So I'm going to trim about 4 to start with and see how we go. Okay, so armed with a few of those new pieces of cork I've just cut, I then went and sliced a few down the center. As I said just now, you can't just lay a thick lump of cork round a tight bend. It will buckle, it will tear, and you won't actually manage it. It's even difficult enough when you cut it down the center and make two. But at the same time, remember, as you do bend it, one piece will start passing the other one. So you've got to trim it down before you commence carrying on with the next piece. So bear that in mind. It takes a little bit of holding and a little bit of playing around, but you get there in the end. Now, at the end of this, I felt that I was going to leave it at this point, and I will say that in the film, but I actually went on and did another little bit on that head shunt before I completed this. Okay, I think I'm going to leave it there tonight. One, I've run out of weights to use, and I want to let this go off before I just do these couple of pieces in here as an infill. So these I will do in the morning. Once everything else is dry, I can take the weights off and reuse them. So I'll clear up now, put things away, and yeah, I'll see you all again in the morning when we can resume this bit, get that finished, and then I can start laying some track in the area. Catch you all soon. Hi everybody, and a warm welcome back. Now, we've put the cork down, we've got the track cut and sorted out, and I hope that you will agree with me that it looks okay. And I'm sure, as with everything, that everything can be made better or improved. But I think that with your help from the video a couple of videos ago, that you've given me a great deal of help, a lot of ideas, and hopefully at the end of this, we will have the track down, wired up, and it will be running. The point operation will be manual through my handset in a sense. There is no automation yet, but that will come in due course. So I'm going to crack on. I'm going to start soldering up the droppers, drilling them, fixing them, and getting the holes drilled out for each of the points. And I'm going to work my way round. Okay, so I've got quite a task ahead of me in getting all these pieces of track. What I did there is put a little old piece of piano wire down into the slot of the hole where the point motor is going to go. It just gives me an indication that I carefully take the point off and then mark the spot before it gets disturbed. Having drilled the areas where the track is going to go down, I take each piece of track away and I then solder on the droppers in the appropriate places. Now, when I'm putting the glue down, as you've just seen, I absolutely make sure I don't go anywhere near where those areas of the point are, that obviously with the control parts, I don't want any of that area getting glued up. Having put the two pieces down to begin with, I then weighted it down and I start to repeat the process on the remainder areas of the track. The last piece that will go in will be that three-way pretty much. I want to make sure that everything fits. And in hindsight, I've got to say that fitting that three-way at the end was almost a problem. I did put it in and I did put the other piece of track. I sort of chickened out in the last minute. And the track that's closest to you, I left before I put that in. So I put the two inner ones in right now. They're going in, they're being glued and set up, and the droppers are going through. And at the same time, I'm putting the center one on as well. Now, that all done, I then needed to turn my attention to that three-way point and get that set up, but not before everything else was dried first. I just run out of weights for kickoff, and I think time got the better of me at this part of the process. But with the two tracks laid down, I then set about marking out the three-way. Now, three-way asymmetric point is difficult enough. It has two point motors. You can see where I've glued down. I've absolutely made sure that I'm not getting anywhere near the operational parts of the three-way, but also they've got three green wires coming down from the frog motor or the frog point. So you've got quite a bit of wiring going on one of these, but that was all down, and I was happy to continue on with the remaining parts of this track. So firstly, I got set up with that last line, the one that's closest to you now, gluing that one down, but then also the remaining point that's got to go in, and those two extra pieces of track, which one of course is going to the head shunt, which will house the off and on duty shunter, and then the one that returns back to the other point just behind my head there, which will allow traffic to rejoin that setup. So all in all, not a bad job, at least I thought so anyway. The weights are off, and I'm really pleased with the way this has turned out. Everything is down very, very nicely. I can't feel any issues anywhere on the joints, and in particular this, I was a little bit worried when I put this down. There seemed to be a little bit of a very, very slight hump in here somewhere, but I put extra weights on it. It's tightened up and gone down nicely with the glue. Could have just been a little bit of odd glue or something just lifting it. And so my next step is to get under the tables and set everything up wire wise, and this whole area is isolated at this point back here, so that if there was a problem on this stretch, it's easier to diagnose than trying to find the fault over the whole layout. So that's what I'm trying to do, is isolate the whole layout in section so that I can unplug something. There is an isolating point here on there, so that everything this way can be tested, etc, etc. Hi everybody, welcome back. Now everything is sorted, at least almost. There is a bit of a story to all of this. Okay, last time you saw, I've been laying the track, laid the cork, cut the track into place, got everything done, got the droppers soldered on, and got all the track laid as you see it, and that was fine. But then I made a schoolboy error. Now, I didn't look at the drill bit that I was using to put the holes through here for the point motors to go into, and I used an 8mm instead of a 10mm, which I normally do. I don't know why I did that, and of course I didn't see the problem at that time, and all the track went down. And yeah, the thing was that when it came right to it, the throw wasn't enough, and I had track that was moving only so far over one way and fully the other, and it wasn't doing anything any good at all. So I also had a problem under here, because when I felt underneath there was clear, and I felt okay, so that point could go in there, not a problem, that works very, very well, until I got underneath there to fit the point motor, and suddenly realized that actually where we'd raise this top up as it comes round to a certain level, there was clearance for my fingers, but there was no clearance for a point motor to go in. So I had to get a jigsaw underneath here and work upside down and start chopping away a little bit of the leg so that I could insert the point motor at this area here. Now that, after a lot of swearing and messing around, went in, not a problem, but I had that same issue with the hole here, and it would not throw. So I then needed to take a little bit more out of that leg. In doing all of that, the camera that you are looking at all this on now, with all the vibration, I didn't think, came tumbling over, if it shows up, but yeah, maybe you can see it now, I'm not too sure. Hopefully you can, but yeah, the tripod come over and literally completely dinked the rail on that point. So my next step was I had to take this point out, or not this one but the other one, the damaged one, cut a new piece of cork, cut that all in, put that all in place, solder up a new point here. While I was doing that, I did drill out this hole, so it was fine. So this was the first of the ones that was sorted out, and then tried this one, and I managed to get a 10mm bit and started sort of carefully taking away the wood underneath and used a Stanley blade to finish it off. That worked fine, not a problem. I think, however, there's a problem with this point. In other words, the frog motor's all fitted up, not a problem, or the frog wire. Everything is working to my knowledge, but the polarity is working fine. You bring a loco round here, set to this road, that's fine, not a problem. Set it to this road, not a problem. But unless the loco, like these little 060s down here, unless they've got a stay alive in them, they will not make it across here. They come up here, hit the frog and stop about there. But they will run back over it. So I don't know if there's a problem with this. I've cleaned it. It could be dirty wheels on the locos. I've got one here that is another 08 shunter that's coming through. If I said 060, I do apologise. An 08 shunter that comes across perfectly. I'm guessing it may have a stay alive in it, I'm not too sure. But it comes through and without any issues. But everything else that I've got, including a little USA tank wagon, they haven't got stay alives in them, and they come across and they stop. Whereas if it was a polarity problem, it would stop this side because it would hit that there and short and not work. So I don't know what the problem with this is. But as I say, everything else is fine. I then got this one sorted out, and I was able to use the same process to widen the hole underneath. So that one is now working tickety-boo. So 2 out of 3, absolutely fine. This one almost is fine. Over here, however, is my asymmetric 3-way. I haven't even started on that one yet. So you can see the whole of this area did not go without a problem. That's pretty usual with me somewhere along the line. But my skills when it comes to electronics are very, very limited. And I do rely on some good friends to come in and bail me out of problems. But that all said and done, I really am happy with the design, and I've got to thank everybody out there who had an input and the suggestions that you brought forward at some point in the video a couple of videos ago. Thanks ever so much for that. I think out of everything we've got a very nice little setup coming. So what's next? Well, I actually went a little bit ahead of myself and did all of the front part before I did any of the back parts. So I'm gonna, before I get too involved with any more on the front, I'm gonna run that back line. It's only a single line. It's going to run all the way through the back here and meet up at the crossover and everything else down here. So that's what's going to go in next. Yeah, I'm going to end with a little bit of running, such as it is, bearing in mind I can't use or employ the 3-way asymmetric right now, so it's only a case of running up a few trains and running back again. But I hope you enjoy that and just seeing how this area may develop in the future. And I've still got to cut out the little bit of timber here with a jigsaw over this weekend, which will really identify the harbour wall in the future. So that will be a little bit of an ongoing project alongside everything else. So in the meantime, thanks ever so much for your support. Thanks ever so much for the subscribers. I know that some of you are subscribed, many of you are not, but if you care and you think if I've done a good enough job to warrant your subscription, then please subscribe to the channel, and any comments and share and all these other things would be so helpful to the channel. So anyway, I'm going to catch you all in the next one. Enjoy the few trains running. See you soon. Bye bye. Okay, just while these last few trains do their little bit of running, and I've enjoyed the process, although I said at the start I didn't have that three-way running at the time. Well, since making this video, I was able to get under and carefully widen the holes out underneath the tables to take the 2-point motors without any damage, and I'm happy to say that the whole process of the three-way is working correctly. It's working nicely, and yeah, I'm enjoying trains running and being able to use them in the fullest possible way. Catch you all in the next video.